In this episode, we're going to talk about what to do if you have some sort of electronic item that you think might have bed bugs and how you can potentially treat it. Welcome everybody to Bedbug TV. I'm your host, Jeff White. And in today's episode, we're going to talk about electronics. I get a lot of emails from people that say, hey, listen, I got a laptop, I got a DVD player, a TV, an alarm clock, whatever the case may be. I think it might have bed bugs. What can I do with it? How do I treat it? And I'm going to tell you up front, this is not an easy topic. There's just not a lot of options for those items and not a lot of good ones. And so I'm going to talk about one or two at the tail end of this of things you can consider. But I'm going to tell you right now, I don't have a ton of great advice when it comes to that. Now, the one good piece of advice I do have, though, is that unless you found hundreds of bed bugs inside your home, and most of the people that are watching Bedbug TV that are emailing me, typically that's not the case. So unless you found hundreds of bed bugs inside the house, it is unlikely that an electronic item is going to have bed bugs associated with it. Electronics aren't really items that bed bugs want to be in. You know, they're hard plastic. They tend to be very, very slick in terms of them walking on it. There is a heat source typically in them that could attract bed bugs to them. But I can tell you, after doing hundreds, if not thousands of bed bug treatments, it's very, very uncommon that we find electronics that have bed bugs in them. And when we do, it's typically in very bad infestations. And so honestly, if I were treating a home and there was 20 bugs, 30 bugs, 50 bugs, 6 bugs, whatever the case may be, I wouldn't even be paying attention to the electronics. I wouldn't even be caring about them. They're just unlikely to have bed bugs. And so that's honestly the best advice I can give you, is that if you only have a handful of bugs or not a lot, whatever that might be, I wouldn't even be bothering. Honestly, I wouldn't. Now, if you're the type of mindset, now I'm not saying that they can't, but it's unlikely. One of the things, though, we do say to people, and I train the pest control industry on, is that we have no good answers to this. There's just no good treatment options. If somebody is really concerned, and whether it be reasonable or not, one of the things that we do is we'll use monitors to potentially address the bugs inside this. And so hear me out here. If there's a bed bug inside this, right? And it's up on this nightstand, and the nightstand isn't touching the walls and or the bed itself. What do the bugs have to do? They have to feed. They have to come out of this. And so what we'll do is we'll use their biology and behavior against them. We will install under-the-leg interception devices under the legs of all the bed and couches. And we will try to make them as much of an island as we can, meaning that the only way the bugs can get to the bed are by going up the legs, which means they're going to have to encounter these monitors. If those bugs have to come out of there, and they have to go to the bed to feed, and these are under the legs, and there's not a whole lot of ways for them to get on the bed other than going up the legs, we are slowly using their biology and behavior against them. Honestly, that's the best way to handle electronics, or one of the best ways. So what I have recommended to people to do is take whatever items you're concerned of, and if you just want to handle it over time, take them and put them somewhere away from the bed. Not super far, just not touching the bed. And let those bugs come out of it naturally and try to access that bed, and then hopefully have monitors under the legs of the bed that will pick them up. That may be one of the best ways to handle electronics. Now, in terms of how to treat them, again, as I said, there's not a lot of good options out there. There are a few commodity heaters that you can use. So small heating devices that are designed to treat items for bed bugs. The heaters typically get up to somewhere between 140 and 160 degrees, and then over time they will penetrate the electronics. What I will tell you is that there are electronics that those could potentially damage. And so my recommendation is to call the manufacturer of the electronics and ask them what temperature the item can be exposed to. And I'm going to tell you from my own experiences of doing it, they're probably going to have no idea. And so you're going to be left with this world of I have no idea what to do when it comes to heat and electronics. And so what it's going to break down to is you're going to be on your own in regards to putting the electronics in the heating unit, and if it becomes damaged, I don't think anybody's going to necessarily help you with that. And so you're on your own when it comes to using commodity heaters to treat electronics. And it's not to say I don't know people that have done it and had tons of success doing it. So I don't want to say that all electronics are going to be destroyed by it, but you really need to contact the manufacturer and know that it's going to be on your own in regards to the risk associated with it. The other option that's out there are what we call pest strips. And so one example is a New Van Pro Strip or Pest Strip. You can see images of it in this video. And what it is a small pest strip that you can put in a bag and then put the electronics in the bag with the pest strip, seal up the bag, and then treat it accordingly. Now, the first and most important thing I'm going to tell you is follow the label directions on the pest strip. They're there for your protection. And so, even what I just explained of putting the strip in a bag and putting the electronic in a bag may not be on the label. And if it's not on the label, you shouldn't theoretically do it. And so, again, I'm going to recommend consult the label directions in regards to treating electronics with the pest strips. But just know you can potentially do that in certain situations, and you should leave whatever you put in the bag with the pest strip for a minimum of 2 weeks. Research has been conducted at universities that has shown that sometimes the pesticide being released by that strip doesn't penetrate all of the inner workings of the electronics. And so you want the eggs that are potentially inside to hatch, although I doubt they're there, but if they are, hatch and then slowly work their way out of the electronics, being exposed to whatever pest control product is being released by that pest strip. And so again, you can go online, you can find these pest strips and just follow those label directions. And it is another option, which is a decent option. It's not a terrible option in regards to treating electronics. And so beyond that, honestly, I don't have a ton of great recommendations. Just know that it's unlikely that they have bed bugs unless you had a really bad problem. Or the item was, let's say I had this alarm clock and I wasn't using it, and it was stored underneath the bed, and the bed had 100 bed bugs in it. Okay, well now that electronics might have a little higher risk to it. But most instances it's low risk and there's not a lot of good options. So if you have any questions, jeff.white@bedbugcentral.com, and I hope to see everybody soon enough.